Hi guys, and welcome now to the graph section here for the BLON BL03. And let me start with, let me see here, okay, alright, let me start with the original BLON. This is the original BLON, be it the silver or the gunmetal ones. This is how they graph. Nice full bass, or maybe not the ideal in terms of then wanting to have the most correct sounding mids and so on, but nice full bass. When we take that 100 hertz point that I like using, as you can see, the balance that overall is struck is a balance of a sound which is a little bit more on the warmer sound. The mids, in my opinion, have always been something which has been done nicely, and even though we had this little peak at about 5k, because we got this nice full bass from behind, this kind of organic bass, it doesn't let it really be too bothersome. You just notice is that there's a certain lack of polish on the treble, especially when you push it, or if you use a source which is maybe not the ideal combination. And then nice extension past 10k, as you can see. The purple version of the 03 is the one I've just placed now. I'm just going to change the color here to a different, more standout color. So, okay, it's basically the same, as you can see. The difference is that they've slightly lowered this area here across the upper mids and treble, and not as much extension past 10k. And so overall what we get, if I just quickly show you that 100 hertz point, it just makes it sound a little bit darker, but you just lose a little bit of that let's say sound stage kind of presence, although I don't want to go down that road so much. It just sounds a little bit darker, the purple version. So the biggest benefit is it controls better that slight harshness or slight lack of polish in the treble that you find in the original version, okay, as you can see. Right, and now enter the 2024 version, which lowers ever so slightly I mean, look guys, we're talking about a difference of, like I said, almost 2 dBs, and that difference is from about 60 hertz down. Excuse me. There's a slight increase there in this area between 2 and 5k, but then it drops off more in the treble area, and then there's a gain extension past 10k like on the original. So that's why I was saying the new one, okay, this is the new one which is highlighted now, is like the marriage between the purple and the original version. So we have the extension of the original version. Let me just clear things up here. We have the extension of the original version, okay, past 10k. We have basically the upper mids almost similar to the purple, but then the treble area is being lowered down ever so slightly. So overall what you get is a cleaner sound. The balance that we still have here from 100 hertz, as you can see, is a very nicely struck balance. What we get is then a cleaner sounding BL03, but it's not a huge difference. It's a very minor difference, and I can understand when people say that they would have liked a bigger change. Yes, it makes sense that there could have been a more significant change. And following on that more significant change, I'm going to show you now my version of the BLON 03. Okay, let me make it here red. And this is what, I don't know, I guess BLON could have done this. This is my version of the BLON 03. So I've further cleaned up this whole area here of the mids, upper mids and treble, basically maintained the extension. And you don't see it here because the graph doesn't, to a certain extent, allow you to see it, because, well, I've normalized it at 1k. But the bass here, although graphically it looks similar, it is ever so slightly lower than the current version. I mean, if I actually compare it with the older ones, maybe you will see a bigger difference. There we go. Okay, this is compared, for example, with the purple. The bass just drops ever so slightly. What I've done basically in my BLON is give it the bass of the current version. Given it the bass of the current version, cleaned up further the upper mids and treble, and this is, I guess, this is what maybe BLON could have offered, because yes, then here you see a big difference, for example, compared to the original. Let me just quickly show you the original. My apologies. The original, yes, let me put the original here in blue so that we can see a difference. Okay, this is the original BLON versus my BLON, and the difference is very noticeable. Very, although you might not think that, oh, it doesn't look like it's changed much. No, trust me, it changes completely the BLON from its original sound to what it sounds like modified. Okay, but anyway, guys, this is just a little extra. What we are wanting to show and talk about is the current version. Okay, which is this is the current version of the BLON. And now let's compare it here with a few IEMs. Let's start by comparing it with the KZ. All right, this is the KZ, the Saga, the balanced version. And overall, I mean, it's not in the bass where you really see differences. It's here in this area of the upper mids and treble where you see, or where you can pick up on the slight differences between that one and the other. And the truth is, the Saga is a very well tuned IEM. This later peak of the Pina is noticeable, and then the way that it then drops off again, you pick up on you can quite easily, with a little bit of listening to one and the other, start distinguishing which is the Saga and which is the BLON. And the Saga is just, it's just got that little extra amount of just more polish. It's not a big difference, and again, as I repeated many times, it will be very much dependent on how it fits your ears and all of that. So maybe you won't even see or notice differences in your ears, you know, depending on how the IEMs fit you. But the Saga is a very well tuned IEM, and I really can't wait to get my hands on the Zenith. So that's the Saga. I've shown you the BLONs. Yes, all the BLONs. Here we go. Let me show you now the Key Finder Clean. Okay, this is the Key Finder Clean. The Clean, just the biggest difference that makes the Clean sound more polished is this area of the upper mids and treble is just more well executed, more polished, and the lowering of the bass then gives you a balance between the two extremes of the frequency, which just opens up the sound. It just makes it doesn't lose. Let me quickly just, if I take here the 100 hertz point, and if you look at it, it doesn't make it sound overly warm or overly clinical or anything of the sort, or because you've got now more detail. But the fact that we've got this little extra amount of detail here, as compared to 100 hertz, that, you know, that ratio that I like doing, it just makes it sound that little bit more detailed, that little bit more polished, more elegant, more well executed. Okay. And when compared to the BLON, I mean, yes, the BLON sounds a little bit more full in the mid bass, a little bit, but you know, it's ultimately, if I have to be fair, you know, they are good complements to each other. Let's put it that way. It's not that one is so much better than the other, or the other so much inferior than, no, they are more complements to each other. If you can only choose one, and when you consider the fact that obviously the Clean has got the two nozzles available, and that you get more versatility in terms of tuning, yes, the Clean is the better option, because you can get some of the magic of the BLON in certain aspects, and then get again that magic of the Key Finder Delchi, which is that smoothness in terms of its presentation, which I just really enjoy this style of tuning. It's been very well done. Okay, so that's the Clean done. The next one is the Trippo and Vivace, and the Trippo and Vivace is very much again the same situation as the Clean. Actually, if I put the Clean and the Trippo together, you can see that they almost graph exactly the same. The interesting thing, however, is that although they graph the same and very similar, and even the Vivace, maybe you would have the idea that it would be as bright or as detailed up top as the clean. It's just a little bit less, just ever so slightly less detailed. But like I mentioned earlier, the Vivace is again a phenomenal IM that I think hasn't gotten the deserved attention. And compared to the BLON, it's again just that little extra more polished and costs basically the same as the BLON. And I think it's done enough to justify itself. The Vivace has the same thing with the Kifa and the clean. It's done enough to justify itself to be a standout IM. The same thing as the Saga and the BLON. Yes, okay, it's fine, it's interesting, but they should have done a little bit more, a little bit extra for it to make it really become a standout IM, especially when it's an IM that has so much of a cult following and it's been so successful over all of these years. Okay, next one is the TRN conch. Okay, this is the conch. Again, the conch, you can see, has a vibe going which is very similar to the vibe of the clean and the Vivace. Let me just quickly show you here. That's the Vivace, that's the clean. They all basically, the differences that you can hear between the three of them is the different levels of energy in terms of the upper, mids and treble. Okay, that's the biggest difference. The conch, let's say the brightest, then the clean, the second, and then the Vivace, ever so slightly darker than the clean. But anyway, comparing the TRN, the conch, with the BLON, I think it's again very much self-explanatory. It's got great extension past 10k, great, really well done in terms of mids and upper mids and treble, great bass. It just, you know, the cable, the nozzles, which allow for a little bit more versatility in the tuning, great price. I mean, it's just a more make sense IM. And then now the Tango. As I mentioned, the Tango in terms of the bass quality, very well done. And then the balance that they've actually struck, although you would think that, oh, hold on, but the Tango's got so much more energy up top here. It's actually interesting because when you do listen to the Tango, maybe it's because of the fact that they've used an open back or semi-open back design, you don't notice this. As you guys will recall, I usually prefer this corresponding point of 100 Hz to be above 2.5k. Okay, and you can see it's at 1.5. So you would think that the sound is overly maybe bright or overly, no, it actually isn't. The Tango is a genuinely really good IM and it sounds really good. And you know, you listen to it and it sounds mature. That's it. When you compare it with the BLON, okay, maybe the BLON will be more fun for some people because of the fact that it's got all that extra mid bass and slam and so on. But of the two, the more polished one is definitely the Tango. Again, wanting to be a little bit more fair, these will probably be good complements to each other. Okay, these will probably be really good complements to each other. Of course, the Tango is also more expensive, but overall, let's keep it that way. The Tango is a good complement to the BLON style of tuning and sound. Okay, and then finally, the Tango oxygen, that particular oxygen that I have, and you can see a lot of similarities here. It's just the way that the mids, upper mids and treble are done on the oxygen, which is just that little extra more polish. It's just more well executed. It just gives it that little extra amount of detail, of technicality, that just makes it a little bit more what it is. Okay, it makes it that little extra bit more special. Now, will the BLON be an interesting IM to get a little bit of the vibe of the oxygen? Maybe, yes, maybe. I wouldn't even say that it's complete nonsense what I'm saying, because it could be, if it fits you properly, you could get a lot of the magic of the oxygen from the BLON, the Mark II version. Just for the sake of comparison with my tuned BLON 03, okay, that's my tuned BLON 03. I'm taking it away, compared with the oxygen. So when I say the BLON can be made to sound like the oxygen, and in my opinion even maybe a little bit better. And the reason why I say better is because the balance that I've struck here between 100 hertz and then the mids, upper mids and treble is a little bit more pleasant to my ears, and it gives the blonde that timbre and tonality which I personally prefer, just that little extra. But as you can see, they can be made to be sounding the same, and the reason is because the driver is basically the same driver. Okay, and that's that, guys. I mean, you know, BLON 03 Mark II, interesting proposal. I wish that they had done just a little bit more, you know, maybe ergonomically as well, maybe increase the length of the nozzle ever so slightly, or make it with adjustable nozzles or interchangeable nozzles. They didn't decide to do any of that. They thought, let's just keep it basically with the same shell and give it a different color and just polish up the tuning a little bit. Okay, like I said as well earlier, if you want to own a piece of history, I guess you know, the Mark II will probably be the most sensible out of all the blondes. If you have an older blonde, I don't think it's really necessary to go and buy the new one. If you want to give it a try and retuning it, like I said, hey, let me know and I'll explain. Or then go and check one of my older videos where I talk about that mod and how you can do it, and you'll also understand that it's a very easy mod to do. It's not a difficult mod to do. You need a little bit of patience to open up the shell and put a damper on the driver, and then put some dampers as well on the nozzle exit, and that's it. Alright guys, any questions, please feel free to ask me, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care now. Bye bye.